Welcome to Cooking on the Kenai. Today I'd like to show you how to make peanut brittle. This is one of those recipes you could change and alter as the type of nut or seed you would like to use. Just make sure they're raw when you use them. Down here on my counter I have my mise en place all completed. In my bowl I have my 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, my teaspoon of water, and my teaspoon of vanilla all ready to go. In my pot, I have 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, excuse me, 1 cup of water, 1 cup of light corn syrup, and a pinch of kosher salt. I have my 1.5 cups, which is 1 pound of raw unroasted peanuts and 3 tablespoons of butter ready to go. You will need a candy thermometer in order to pay attention to your temperature of your candy. You will have to cook this to hard crack stage and brittle stage. Okay, for my pot I am going to turn on my burner to medium high, and I'm just going to stir it long enough for my sugar to be dissolved. I want to cook this to 240 degrees. Once your sugar is dissolved, you don't need to stir it until after it reaches 240 degrees. My sugar is getting dissolved and I need to insert my candy thermometer before too much longer. So I'm going to put it in my pan, making sure that it is not on the bottom of the saucepan. So it's measuring the temperature of the sugar and not the bottom of the saucepan. Make sure you know how to read your thermometer and you have tested your thermometer for accuracy. If you don't know how to test your thermometer, please refer to my hard candy glass candy video. My candy syrup has come to a boil, so now I just need to stir it occasionally until it comes up to 240 degrees. Remember to have your little piece of paper toweling out so you can wipe off the front of your thermometer to keep the steam off of it so that you can read your thermometer. Making candy, especially brittles and hard candies, is an effort in patience and precision. You need to make sure you're watching your temperature constantly, and you also need to make sure you are all prepared and not having to measure ingredients or other things as you're cooking your candy. I have my 2 pans already buttered, ready to go for when my candy is finished. As you can tell, I switched out my saucepan. When looking at the amount of nuts I had to put in my pan, I knew that the smaller pan was not going to be big enough to allow me to stir my peanut brittle after I added my nuts. So I am at 240 degrees. And so I am going to add my peanuts, and I am going to add my 3 tablespoons of butter. Once you add this, you need to stir constantly, making sure that you stir it behind the thermometer to make sure that you are covering the whole bottom. The butter will have a tendency to burn, and so will the peanuts if you don't pay attention to this. So you need to stir this constantly all over the bottom of your pan and behind that thermometer. It might be handy if you had somebody else to help you hold the thermometer in place. Because this takes a little bit, I am going to pause and come back when it is getting close to 300. Please be very careful when you're doing candies of this sort. That syrup will burn you in a heartbeat. So take your time and be very careful. The syrup will start turning colors when it hits about 280, and once it hits about 280, it's going to climb really fast. So make sure you're prepared. If you're checking the brittleness with cold water, you have your cold water out there, your very cold water out there, and make sure that you have your vanilla water baking soda mixture ready to go. I make sure that I have stirred that really well before I add it to my candy. This is getting close. Have a pot holder out that you can set your pan on, because once it hits 300 degrees, you need to pull it off the stove before you add your vanilla and your baking soda water. If you look closely, you can see that some of the nuts are starting to brown or toast a little bit. That's one of the reasons you want to use raw nuts when you make this, is because you are cooking the nuts in your peanut brittle syrup. Okay, this is at 280 and you can start to see that it's getting some color to it. Making candy has always been a passion of mine. My uncle and my grandfather loved peanut brittle, so this was often a gift for them, for whether it be for birthdays or for Christmas or when I wanted to do something nice. My candy is at 290 and you can see it's really starting to turn a pretty golden color. You want to make sure that you are stirring this readily, because it will burn those peanuts in a heartbeat if they are left on the bottom of the pan. Straighten out my pot holder so that I can put this on here. Okay, I'm just about 300. So what I want to do to make sure this is at the temperature that I want it is I am going to put a little bit of my syrup in my pan, in my cold water, to see if it is at the stage I want. You taste it, and as you chew it, if it does not stick to your teeth when you chew it, it is done. And mine is done. So I'm going to put my thermometer down very carefully, move my pan off the heat, turn off my heat, stir up my vanilla, water, and soda mixture, and realize this is going to foam up. The acid in the candy is reacting with the soda and making it bubble up and be puffy and brittly. So now I'm going to pour about half on each of my cookie sheets. You want to get this pan, oops, kind of missed you seeing me. You want to get this pan in the hot water as soon as possible after you have got your candy out of it. You want to spread your candy out thin, and it will finish bubbling up and fill in all those little spaces, which is really kind of fun. I'm spreading my other pan, sorry about that. Wait for this to cool, and you will have the best peanut brittle that you have had for a long time. Crunchy golden peanut brittle. What a nice way to make anybody's day. Enjoy. Thanks for watching.